So I'm finally getting back to CATIA. Thank you everyone for leaving the comments. This is going to be another in the series of design theory. So this one I'm going to be focusing on part bodies, and to try to keep this brief, I've actually kind of tried at least to organize my thoughts a little bit here. So I'm going to talk about what is a body and what is a part. How do they relate? What are they, right? And the body timeline and absorption, how it works, especially in contrast with other things like Fusion 360. And then maybe lastly, bodies as an organizational tool. But primarily, bodies have a certain function, and we usually stick to that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is come over here. I'm going to rename my part. We'll just call it bodies. We don't want to forget to do that, I guess, because if we are going to make assemblies, or even just for organizational sake, you want to have this named. All right, anyways, so talking about bodies. So the first thing is we have a part body here, and if we make things inside of it, I'll try to go about as quick as I can with this. So whatever, that wasn't centered, doesn't matter. So take this, pad this up. Here is a feature. Here's a thing inside a body. So this is the thing that CATIA does that a lot of other programs don't do. Some do it kind of. I think that this is the best. I wish, you know, Fusion guys, Fusion 360, I wish that you could kind of go towards this direction. They have a timeline that runs along the bottom, and as things start to get more and more massive, I can see it becoming an issue. The other thing that I think is critical that makes this so good is the absorption of the parent, right? So if this was a folder, this would be the parent and this is the child, but it's reversed here. So the parent is the thing that, you know, creates the child, right? So the sketch we had to have first, and then that makes then you can make the pad from that, right? If you want to see any of this, there's a section here called parent children. You can look at this. We'll deal with this a little bit more later, I think. But I can look at this and I can say, oh, well, here's pad. The pad was based on sketch 1. Now, if I double click sketch 1, it'll open up and show me what it is dependent upon, right? And so maybe that's a good way to think about it, is its dependencies and its links. And this links thing, you know, if I could crawl through this microphone here and like grab everybody, you need to understand links. You need to understand how all this stuff gets tied together, because when you're dealing with bodies and even assemblies for sure, but when you're dealing with multiple different bodies, they're supposed to, right? This is, you know, sort of the unwritten rule. They're supposed to be, you know, in their own little universe, and everything that's dependent upon every other feature inside of that body is only the dependencies are all contained within that body. You don't have multiple bodies here, and say, for example, I'll do this in a second, you don't want the face of one body to be used as a sketch plane for a different body, because that will create a link between the two that will cause you potentially horrible problems down the road. Okay, so this shows you the different dependencies, and if you're so inclined, you could go edit the thing right from that window if you like. I don't use it a whole lot. I use it to figure things out when things are kind of going sideways, especially those links that I was talking about. When you do make a mistake and you can't figure out like why it won't let you do a Boolean operation properly, or, you know, any manner of things that you might be trying to do, and it's saying that there's something like a recursive problem, or, you know, it just errors out for some reason, you're probably having a link problem, and you need to go through all of your different entities here in the tree and check the parent children, the dependencies, to try to see, you know, what's what, right? And it's usually something incredibly, oh my god, it's usually something like you measured an edge inside of a sketch off of so far from like an edge of something or a point of something, and you weren't even thinking, and it creates an assumed projection of a thing in a different body, and it takes sometimes forever to figure that out. Okay, so we have our part body right here, and so then I come up here to insert, and I can insert another body. We'll talk about this body in a set well, really pretty soon here. It's not a really big damn deal. So I put in body 2, and here it is. And so now you can also tell by the underline that I'm now inside this body. So let me reframe this a little bit here. Think about these bodies and even the geometrical sets as being folders. If you think about them as folders, then this makes a lot more sense. If it was Windows, Linux, any kind of file system, typically when you go into the folder icon opens up. It looks like it's open, and that's what this underline is here for. You know, it could be better if it had something else. I don't really know, but that's how it works. If I want to get back into part body, I right click and I define in work object. And maybe to make this make better sense in your mind, you say define the in work object, the object that is currently in work. Right? We read this as define in work object, and it doesn't seem to make sense. Anyways, I could do that. Sorry. Hit that. Now the underline is on part body, and then if I hit define work object here, then I'm back in part body 2. That's how you get in and out of the different part bodies. Okay, so I come over here and I need to make a sketch. So I come up here and I go to, no. If I do this, if I go onto this face right here and I go into Sketcher, the sketch plane that I'm going to make here is going to be based on the top of that pad. So that's no good. So I have to pick my origin point right here, or I mean one of my default planes, and I can go into the sketch there. Now I can make another shape. Oh, oops, yeah, this is so off center there, whatever. Take this, pad this up, let's mirror it so we know that it's going completely through it, right? So there we go, we got 3 inches going completely both sides through it. Roll this around. Can you see how it looks a little bit different? We have part body here. Let's open this up. Always open up the plus sign, so that's going to help you see what's going on. The difference here, if you see this, there's an edge right here. I could fill it on that. There is an edge right there. Fill it that, chamfer it, whatever. There's an edge here. There is an edge over here. But there is not an edge right there. I can't get that because these two entities here, body 1 and part body, they are in separate space. If you want to think about it like there's different dimensions or something, and these parts are in different dimensions but they're occupying the same space, it's something like that. We cannot do anything with them. They're separate, right? Now, why? So that's the next thing to talk about. Why would we want to do this? Okay, so I could if I want to, I could merge these things together. By the way, the why is almost always going to come down to Boolean operations. We're going to perform some type of Boolean operations on this for whatever reason that might be, and I'll hopefully kind of touch on that a little bit as well. Okay, so I take this, and just to do this real simply, I want to say I want to take body 2 and I want to join it together with part body. Okay. So over in your gray area and somewhere on the toolbars here, if you right click, there's all these icons or all these toolbars that are currently available here that you can see. Those are the ones that are checked. The ones that are not checked are the ones that are just currently hidden. So I want Boolean operations. So I check that and they show up here somewhere. Now if you have yours laid out as default, you have to go down to the bottom here where there's a double arrow, if you can see where my mouse is wiggling down here, and you start yanking out toolbars all day long until you get to the ones you want. Okay, this one here, I call it a handle. You grab the bump right here and you pull this out. Sorry for the scribbliness on the screen, that's my video capture. Now if I grab this at the title bar at the top here and I'm wiggling it around, sorry again for the scribbles, hold down shift and it will turn it sideways, and then when you let go, now you'll have the actual, you can see the name. Okay, so this is Boolean operations. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the two things together. There's simpler ways to do this, but I'm going to show you the long and normal default way, I guess, right? So if you hit this arrow here, you can grab the handle here and pull that one out as well. And this is also Boolean operations under Boolean operations. But this one here is an add, this one's a remove, and this one's an intersect. And they perform different functions. And I think I will probably try to save that mostly for a different video because I want to stay focused on just what are bodies and how do they work here. So if I hit add, you'll get a little window pops up and it says I want to add what to what. So if I say I want to add body 2 to something, odds are when I hit this, it's going to autofill in the rest because it's only the only other thing you could add it to. So it says, oh, you want to add body 2 to part body? Yes, I do. So you hit OK, and now the two are welded together. All right? So you see that? Now if I wanted to, I could pick just that edge there, and now I can put a fillet on this. Okay, so this opens up a gigantic can of worms here for conversation about the do's and don'ts and why you would do this. So that's how it works. That's what it does. But now let's shift over into the design theory side of this, the practicalities, the way you would want to do this for yourself in the future, or if you're working for a group. Because I can tell you right now, this is stupid as hell. The way I just did this is kind of a little bit on the horrible side. All right, so I will get to why this is horrible in a second. I think I want to deal with first, why do we want to do this, right? Why do I want to make a body to join a couple things together that I could have done in the first place, right? So I could have just made these two things right here in the same body, would have never had this issue, and who gives a rip, and everything would be fine. And in this particular case, yeah, that's absolutely the way you probably should have done it. And for most people, I say that very hesitantly, because it always depends upon what industry you're working in. You know, if you're working, let's see, lately I'm working on a new video for a mini quad, and it has to do with like cutting out templates out of carbon fiber, these flat patterns out of carbon fiber. If that was my job, if that was my career, do I need to know about tooling operations and part bodies and how to integrate the two together like this? No. I'm basically, in that case, you could almost just stick with Adobe Illustrator or something, right? And just make DXF files, right? But if you're doing things that are more complicated, like mold making and things, right, then this becomes kind of a bigger deal. So let me wipe this out and be right back. All right, so let's say we're going to make a feature here. We're going to make an element. We want to put this here, and apparently everything got really zoomed in. So we'll do this, and I don't know, I'll pad this up half an inch or so, and then we go into the face. Oops, and then add a circle right here and pad that thing up as well. Okay, so we have this feature, and we want to have some type of a fillet on here, right? So you go and you do this element the way you want, like maybe 0.2, and you look at this and you go, you know what? That's not what I wanted. I want this to be, let's say, this edge of the fillet right here. I want it to maybe be up in here somewhere, like right about there, and I want this to extend up a little bit further. I want something different. Maybe it's very subtle, right? So again, don't dwell on, like right now specifically, what I'm trying to do here. But just the idea that there's something that's subtly off. Now, this could easily turn into a surface design exercise as well, because that's the other point where I hit that. I mean, when you hit this point where I can't get this to do what I want, then you're like, screw it, I'm out of here. I'm going to wireframe, and point by point, line by line, I will make it happen the way that I want it. All right. Anyways, so this is not happening. It's not happening the way I want, so I want to figure out a way to do this. And this is the problem with, it is a problem when you're bouncing between different CAD programs. We have one CAD to the next, you know, SolidWorks, Fusion 360, whatever. And you go in there, and they all have their really, you know, killer strengths, and then they have their other things. You know, when you come from a different world, you hit these blockades, and the software won't do it. And so you end up, the problem with this is you end up getting something that you don't want. You end up with some kind of a feature that's just not quite good enough. And to maybe take it into a little bit more, you know, spiritual of a thing or something like this, marketing, if you will, if you're the designer in your own company, or you're working for some company, if you've been hired to make a product, if this thing is going out to the customer or something like that, sometimes, you know, the thing is not going to sell if it doesn't look cool. You got to have a little bit of a different look to it, right? So there's a reason for that. Also, on the other hand, sometimes it's just straight out right. You got to get this thing to fit, and we need it to be of a certain shape and size. All right, so this one's not doing it. So I'm going to back up here a little bit, get rid of that. And then we'll add in a different body. So we'll go ahead, we'll insert body here. And then I'm going to start redesigning this, right? So if you pick here and you go into Sketch, this is right there you go, and you should get like a big warning buzzer. Nope, don't do that, because if I go into Sketch right now on this face, this is going to link this body to some degree to this body up here. And when I try to do other features to it, when I try to do other operations, Boolean operations or whatever, that link is going to almost invariably come into play at some point in time, in a bad way. So what I want to do is what I need to pick a plane here like this, one of my original default planes, and then I can go into Sketcher there. But my problem is that's down here at the bottom, and I don't want that to be. I need to have this right about up in here somewhere, so I need to make a new plane. So we go here, go make a new plane, and we offset it from here. But again, another big warning buzzer. This, if you watch my video on geometrical sets, this again is a big, huge, no-no, I guess, right? You want to create your planes not here in this body. You want to create them in a geometrical set. So let me tangent out here for a second. I create a geometrical set. I get the underline. This is a new type of body. So these are bodies of a certain type. Geometrical sets are bodies of a certain type. More on that in a sec. So I go here, and now I make my plane, and I say I want this offset from there so far. I want, make sure if you grab the arrow, don't grab move. That'll screw you all up. Bring it down if you like, or just in this case, I'm just going to say 0.25. So now this plane is there now. So now I want to make a sketch, but I need to get back into body 2. You'll do this. I do this all the time. You screw up, you forget, whatever. So you go over here to body 2, and you say define in work object. Define in work object. So I hit that. Now it's underlined. Now I can pick this plane. I can go into sketch. Right? So back to this. So I go here, and now I want to make that feature again, except this time I'm going to make a circle, and it's going to be a little bit bigger. Okay? I'll take this, and I'll pad this up. And now, again, don't dwell on the specifics of what I'm doing. Just kind of go with the idea of what I'm trying to show here. So now, inside of this body is that element that we just made. If I click away, it did not just get welded together in there. It really is still there. They're two separate bodies. What you can do, and this is going to be super helpful, is you do a hide show on the part body, and now we just see that. Okay? That brings up another point. Whenever I'm doing this, to make things stand out very plainly, I like to come here and color things. I usually use, what are my favorite colors here? I got yellow, I got magenta, and I got bright green. Those are like my go-to first colors because they're so contrasting. So I could do that one here. I could unhide this one here. You don't have to unhide it to do this, but and I'll change that to green. So now, as I bounce back and forth, it'll become easier to see which one is which. All right. So I have this body here, and I pick the surface of this one. I'm in body 2, and I go up here to sketch, and now I draw my shape again. If I want this to be accurate and all that, then I'll have to do some concentricities and all that other junk. Pad this up about 0.6. Okay, bring the other body back just to show you. See that? So it's sticking through. There's edges and edges and edges, but no edge there. It's a body in a separate space. If you want, you can even come back here. It doesn't show up very good. It doesn't, if you're not using shading, it just sort of is sort of transparent here. All right, so we got that. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and hide that out of the way completely, and I want to put a fillet on that. So I go here, put my fillet right there, and this is how I can drive that fillet the way I wanted it to be. So maybe I want 0.25, and it kind of comes up a little bit. Unhide this and go, let's see, is that about what I wanted? No, I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be a little bit higher. Okay, so we'll come back here and grab the plane. Again, sorry, don't dwell on the specifics, terribly too much, but I could do this, raises it up. I could dink around with this until I get it exactly the way I like it. Then, okay, so then I say, okay, that's good enough. I'm going to do a couple things here really quick. I will get this back to not being transparent, and I'll hide it again. And I'm still here in body 2. While I'm in body 2, oops, I'm going to make a circular pattern of that feature. The whole current solid, By the way, you guys, if you've ever wondered how come this defaults to current solid whenever you make a pattern and you have to multiply select the things you want to do beforehand, sometimes people, they look at this and go, yeah, why the hell does it always say current solid? Because it wants to pattern the whole thing. Why doesn't it let me pick? And you can't pick the bag and pick. It's kind of stupid. The reason is you're supposed to design in a body first and pattern the whole entire body and then add the body back to the original or main body, like what we're doing. So we, in this case, let it be current solid because it's everything. It's the pad, the fillet, the other thing, right? So we take that and I say I want a complete crown. I want to do 8 of these things again, and my reference direction is going to be this plane down here. Now, if it says that, disregard that. It's stupid. It always works. Or you could right-click in here and you could pick, say, the z-axis or something. Okay, so there's my pattern. Hit OK. Now I have all my little giblets running around here. And then I can unhide this, and then I say, yes, that's exactly the way I want it to be. Now what you can do is I could take body 2 and I could add it to part body. So we come back up here to the add. And I say I want body 2 to be in part body, please. And you hit OK, and now they are there. So that's first and foremost the quickest, best way I can come up with right now why you might want to use multiple part bodies. One reason in this case. So then the other reason I want to show you that you might use this is if you, let's see what's going to be easiest here. Knock all this out of here. You want to make a mold. So I feel like I might have shown this in some other video, but let's start from here. We'll say, okay, we're going to have a block here. This we can do this pretty quick. Centered rectangle. I like centered rectangles. They should make that the default. Okay, point. How about 1 inch? There we go. Oh yeah, it's still green. That's nice. Okay, new body. Now, let me mention this. Body in a set versus body, no big damn deal. All it is this. Body in a set. What do you want to name it? You can choose which one it goes in, but at this point it's going in this. Pretty much regardless, almost. And I can call this main. How about the main shape, right, for this mold that we're making? Okay, so I'm here in main shape, and I will go ahead right off the bat, give it a color, make it be yellow, hit OK. Now I want to start making this. So this block is kind of the stock that we're going to cut the mold out of, okay? But you usually don't make the mold and the part, you have a part that you want to make a mold of, you don't usually just make that as a negative feature in a block and call it done. You usually make the feature as a positive, and then you figure out how to take that positive shape and then carve it out of a block. Now, if you have 2 different shapes, 2 different CATIA files, 2 different CAD files, you increase the likelihood that you might mess one up, or you might, revisioning. One might be older, newer than the other, and it might be kind of bad. So in this case, this is one time when I kind of break my rule about assemblies of sorts, sort of, kind of. In the main shape here, I'm going to design the shape. So let me hide part body for a second, and hold on here. Let's work with this upside down. Oh no, here we go. I can be smarter than this. So I'll take this and I'll just reverse the direction. I want to work on the top, but I don't want to have to make a new plane and go through all that. So fine, we're done. Take this, hide that. I'm in main shape, and now here is the top plane that I'm going to design my shape, the thing that I want to make. So let's do something kind of interesting here. Let me unhide this for a second. Okay, that was just to make sure I'm going here. Let's leave it there for a second. Yeah, how about like this? And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just making something up here. Go like that. And yeah, fine. We'll take that and we will groove it around. No, we're going to shaft it around, because you're thinking, yeah, we want to cut this out of here. No, we're going to spin that thing around the X. Okay, I can see already it's going to be too deep, but that's fine. Ooh, just a little bit. So we'll make the pad be 1.5. And so you see what happens here? So this part here, this little yellow peanut looking thing, is inside the green block. It's down here, but it's not a part of it yet. So now we got to do a different Boolean operation. I'm going to take the main shape and I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to remove it from part body. So that's this one right up here. So I hit remove and I can say main shape, remove it please from part body, yes, and hit OK, and there's half of our mold. And so then that is another big reason why you might want to use bodies. At no point in time though were these different separate parts, right? They're just bodies. The fact that you're in part design should speak to the fact that you're making a single part, not an assembly, not nuts, bolts, washers, and whatever. Those are all separate parts that you bring together in assembly. All right, so the next thing then, I want to kind of drop that now. I want to talk about the tree here, the parent-children, the way it absorbs, and this whole mess here, why this is maybe not such a good idea. So looking at the tree, so this is what we want to focus on now. So the tree is basically, this is bad form. I don't know if there's anything, you know, it's not basically, it's messed up. If you're going to do other things with this in the future. So here's the thing. Main shape, if I start collapsing it up, this body main shape is under this operation called a remove. Okay, so this is how it works out here. This event happened called a remove, and inside of that, the thing that it removed was this thing called main shape, and inside of main shape, that main shape consisted of a thing called a shaft, which was part of, or was created from, a sketch and an axis. Okay, so that's sort of the chain right there, right? Now, if you follow your main branch, again, just like a file structure, if I collapse everything up here, as far as part body is concerned, inside of part body, there's a thing called pad 4, and then there's a thing called a remove. All right? So part of the reason that this is bad is if you ever want to take, say, a part body or part of this and move it to some other part or copy it out of here somewhere else. Let me show you what I mean here. So say after I was all done with this, then this block, I realized, oops, I forgot to round the corners. So I go here and I grab a fillet and I run around here and I catch all the corners and I round them out to say 1 inch. Say yeah, oops, good, yeah, that's what I wanted. I forgot to do that. Well, now in your tree you have, so think about, you know, what these different parts are. This yellow thing here inside is our part, and we still have that, but it's buried down underneath here under this remove. Okay, this pad 4 is supposed to be our original solid with our edge fillet, because that's what the stock, let's say, is supposed to look like. But somehow stuck in the middle of the timeline is this remove. If I wanted to just take this green block out of here and use this stock for some other part that I wanted to make, just like I want to copy this out and save it as something else, right? I'd have to remove this out of here. Now, again, keep in mind that this is the idea of what I'm doing rather than specifically what I'm doing, because right now, yeah, that's not that big of a deal. But if this got out of hand further and I started building more and more onto this, then this could become problematic. Like, let's say that I needed to add some pins and stuff to the stock. I want to add some holes here for injection molding, or, well, it depends where that's going to go. But, you know, I want to add more elements to the actual stock that I'm pulling this out of. All of that stuff is going to be part of this kind of homogeneous mess that I just made. So let me show you how to do it right, and I think that will make it make more sense. Can you do it this way, and will you get away with it just fine? Yes. You can do anything you want, you know, but that's not in the design theory videos, right? So we'll back this up all the way back, oops, before we did this. So, okay. We have our main shape and we have our part body. Slightly different topic. Part body itself is a little bit different than the added part body. So this is going to add another wrinkle to this. And you can kind of tell by, see there's a gear and a plus sign here. That is maybe for a different video why that is. But the plus sign means that it's a positive polarity body. So let's not dwell on that right yet. The part body itself in its perceived idea is the thing that all things go into ultimately, okay? You shouldn't have parts that are going to get joined or removed or intersected or whatever in here, in part body. So here's what we do. We insert a new body. I'm going to say body in a set so I can name it. And I'm going to call it Stook. Let's call it stock. And I want to put, sorry, messed that up a little bit. I want to put pad 4 into stock. Now I might be able to cut it out of here and paste it. But what you can do, watch, I'll rename this. Hold on. Let me wipe this up. Watch this. So I right click on this, and you can go down here to stock object and you can say change to part body. Okay, so let me make a good out of my little mistake here. So let's say I wanted to cut this out of here and I want to paste it in there instead. Okay, I can sometimes do that. I lost my color though. Okay, sometimes you can't do that and it gets screwed up because you spent too much time, you put too many things in part body, and you'll get that, you know, error of, you know, cannot paste. So watch. So you come here and you go to stock object and I can say change part body. They should have added a 2. Change to part body, right? It was probably, I don't know, years before I found that. And I was like, really? By the way, there's also this handy one here, reset properties. That resets your graphic properties. So if you spent all day long changing all these colors, you might find out that you can't actually change all the colors back individually, or at least it doesn't look like it, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have made it all crazy looking. Come back here and it'll just reset the colors. So I hit change part body. It'll say, do you really want to do this? And I say, yes, I do. And then what happens is body 1 is now part body, and stock part body is called body 1, and stock has now turned into part body. If you want to change that, you can. You might even just call it mold. Okay, no little plus signs or gears on it. These ones down here are this. So here's where I'm heading with this. So what I want to do is I want to take one of these features and I want to add it into mold. So we're gonna put body 1, which let's rename that to, we'll rename this to stock now, right? I want to add this into mold. So I can take this and I can go down here and I can say add, remove, intersect, union, trim. Here's all my booleans just in a right click menu. It knows that, you know, you might want to do this rather than having to go up here. Okay, both are the same. So I hit add and it says, what do you want to add it to? I would like to add it to mold. Okay, so it adds it in. At this point in time, nothing has happened. The add is just the stock has just been added, moved over into that folder. Now I can take my main shape and I can say please remove. Now when I hit remove, it's going to happen right away because there's nothing else it could remove from. So it's just going to go, yep, shoots it right in there. Here is the benefit. Here's the big benefit. Ooh, look at that. Got a hole in it because I backed up too far. These are separate. So if I collapse this down under mold now, I have an add activity or, you know, thing, and then I have a remove thing. If I open them up, inside of each, I have a part body. If I want to modify either one of these, if I want to take this and copy this and or whatever to somewhere else, I can. And everything underneath this stays underneath this. For example, well, let me fix this up. So I want to pad this up to 1.5 so I don't have a hole in the part any longer. And then I want to get into it here and I want to add a feature. So I'm going to add another feature to it because remember we wanted the corners round. So I right click on this, define in work object. Now I'm inside of that part and now I can come over here and I can make fillets. Notice that I don't see the remove body any longer because this is back in time. So this has to do with part body timeline. And I'll make that be 1 inch, rounds that all out. That fillet and all things having to do with stock I can now keep contained underneath that stock folder. I right click on this one, define in work object, brings it back to maybe current time. and now everything is good. No more hole in the bottom, rounded corners. If I want to take any of these features out of here, I can. I have separate items. They're not mashed in together like in that, kind of homogeneous fashion as we had before. All right, well, I think I've already gone long enough. I was sitting here thinking about what I'm going to, how I'm going to get everything else in, and I looked over what I've recorded so far, and as usual, I just start talking, and it's at least an hour. So I could shrink this down, but I really don't want to. I'll do, as soon as I can, another video on the actual elements, features in the timeline, how they relate, parents to children. And what I think would be kind of cool is I want to do some troubleshooting. So I'm going to create some broken models and then go over them and show how I can use parent-children and follow the links to figure out why parts break. When you have a long, complicated part that the tree scrolls for days, and you or somebody has done something where they have clicked or moved, they thought it'd be no big deal, where they just like cut a part body out or cut some features out and paste it somewhere else, and the whole thing blows up, and now you got to fix it, right? I mean, you can hit undo, but maybe it needs to be done this other way, and it blows up. How do you fix that? So I think that would be kind of cool. And I'll hit some of the other things too that go along with that, like finding things in the tree easily, like reframing on and showing graph. So anyways, that's it for this one. I will try to get that one done as soon as possible.